When it comes to the racial wealth gap, Center for American Progress Senior Fellow Christian E. Weller said in 2019, racial disparities in wealth are not a result of individual or family choices, but rather a result of structural racism in American public policy. Without intervention, these disparities are expected to persist for at least another 200 years. For the best personal finance content, subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to be notified when I post a video twice weekly. A considerable wealth gap among different races is quite visible in the United States. This gap can be found between racial minorities and white households due to inequality of inheritance, historical oppression, or general prejudice and racism against minority groups. Therefore, Latino, Black, and Native American households have less wealth than whites. This gap is noticeable if you consider both the median and average household wealth. According to a 2013 survey, white households' average was nearly about 8 times that of blacks and 7 times that of Hispanics. But why are white Americans still at the top of the wealth scale? Does the racial wealth gap harm all races? How do we create opportunities for the next generation to come out of this racial income gap? Watch this video all the way to the end if you're thinking about how to answer these questions. I'm certain this video will give you the answers that you seek. As a quick reminder, I'd like to see you invest in the channel by clicking the like button and helping us reach our goal of 50 likes. Also, if you're enjoying our content, consider subscribing so I can help you with personal finance and economic concepts every week. Subscribing is free and you can always unsubscribe later. The racial wealth gap. African Americans have faced the wealth gap for generations. They also hold fewer assets of any type than white Americans. In fact, 9% of white households have negative or zero net worth, while on the other hand, 19% of black families have no wealth. The chart on your screen took data from the Survey of Consumer Finances to define the racial wealth gap by explaining different kinds of assets by racial group. It uses a recent survey that defined the following percentage of U.S. families with each type of asset. The data shows that white households are twice as likely to own publicly traded stocks, retirement accounts, and family-owned businesses than black households, and over 50% more likely to own the primary residence than black households. White households hold more financial assets such as family businesses, retirement accounts, and stocks. And these assets are helpful in building more wealth. But when we compare it to people of color, only a few minorities hold these assets. The differences are striking, but they are not the sole contributors to the racial wealth gap. There are also many other factors. Economic variations and demographic. White households have more demographic characteristics also associated with wealth, such as more likely to receive an inheritance, more highly educated, almost 51% having some degree. For example, 39% of whites have a higher education degree compared to 17% and 23% of Hispanics and blacks respectively. But keep in mind that education does not fully explain the wealth inequalities. You can also see the wealth gap exists between the families with the same level of education. So what could be responsible for the racial wealth gap primarily? The racial income gap. The Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland issued a recent study offering a new perspective. For a long period, the researchers analyzed the dynamics of wealth accumulation, focusing on black and white U.S. households only. They concluded that income inequality is the main reason for the racial wealth gap. According to the study, there's a need to address issues that are contributing to the racial income gap. This includes reducing racial discrimination in the labor market and introducing mentorships that improve environments for particular racial subgroups. How the racial wealth gap harms all races. What will happen if the racial wealth gap continues on its path? It will lead to serious consequences that harm everyone. According to a study, if the racial wealth gap is not reversed, it can cost the U.S. up to $1.5 trillion over the next 1 or 2 decades. Action is required to address building black wealth, otherwise the black community is on the path to hit zero wealth. To a certain extent, inequality in the modern world is quite natural, but when the gap reaches a very large scale, it leads to the fact that some people and some groups of people simply drop out of modern civilization. In addition, we must not forget that this situation is socially explosive. It's widely thought that poor people of all races are more likely to engage in crime just to get by. It's also known that this kind of development can lead to negative phenomena of social upheavals. According to another study, the median African American will hit zero wealth by 2052, and the median Latinx will hit zero wealth by 2073. In 2012, Thomas L. Messenberg, acting director of the U.S. Census Bureau, says the non-Hispanic white population is projected to peak in 2024 at 199.6 million, up from 197.8 million in 2012. Unlike other race or ethnic groups, however, its population is projected to slowly decrease, falling by nearly 20.6 million from 2024 to 2060. Messenberg also goes on to say that Asian and Hispanic populations will double to 34.4 million and 128.8 million respectively in 2060. All this while Black population will increase from 41.2 million in 2012 to 61.8 million over the same period. The projected population for the future of the United States is non-white, and inequality in wealth among one generation leads to the next. So it's important to address the racial wealth gap now and find a solution, otherwise it could become an issue for the majority. Some other negative consequences of economic inequality are low social mobility, negative impact on the development of children, promotes financial instability, life expectancy is lower, excessive savings, and political instability. Economic crises intensifying, and decline in economic growth. The racial wealth gap also harms quality of life. It is wealth that enables people to cope with unexpected income losses. So the inability to work or sudden loss of a job can lead to hunger and loss of home. Moreover, wealth provides an opportunity to save for higher education and investment for old age. That's the reason the wealth gap is considered a matter of social justice. How to improve the racial wealth gap? Inequality is a natural part of any economy. However, the harm of excessive inequality has long been at the center of modern economists' attention. And the balance between them is very difficult to strike because it does not depend on the victory of one or another ideology. It should be established, taking into account all specific circumstances, including moral factors. Policymakers have a range of tools and tricks to tackle rising inequalities and promote opportunities for all races in the United States. An effective social dialogue and a high level of trust in institutions are required for the success of such policy packages. To close the growing gap between whites and other races, it's necessary to promote opportunities for all. I believe the following policies are needed in four main areas. Transfer and tax system for effective redistribution. Adequately designed redistribution through taxes and transfers is a powerful tool for promoting greater equity and growth. Policy measures must ensure that wealthier people, as well as multinational firms, pay their share of the tax burden. The widespread and continuing losses of low-income groups indicate the need for well-thought-out policies to support income and counter-cyclical social spending. Improving educational access. Skills in education. Addressing young age and the needs of families with school-age children is especially important to address socioeconomic disparities in education. More must be done to equip youth with the skills that they need to get off to a good start in the labor market. In a booming economy, further efforts must be made to engage employers and trade unions to continuously improve skills throughout the working life. Boosting minimum income. Increasing income at the low end of the scale will allow those workers to save and build wealth. One way to do this is to raise the minimum wage. Some studies have shown that cities that increase the minimum wages decrease the wealth gap, which causes the living standard of those cities to increase. Employment promotion and high-quality jobs. Policy measures should focus on access to employment and integration into the labor market. The emphasis should be on policies that target the quantity and quality of jobs, jobs that offer investment and career opportunities, and jobs that are springboards rather than dead ends. The problem of social inequity throughout human history has not disappeared. It has always remained a headache for politicians, economists, and experts of countries all over the world without exception. The racial wealth gap is also not a new issue. It's negatively affecting some communities. With proper planning, this issue can be resolved, otherwise it can lead to a serious national crisis. Now that you know so much about the racial wealth gap, you might be motivated to invest. Invest easily and effortlessly using Acorns. With Acorns, even your spare change can grow into a mighty oak. Explore the new Acorns Early feature and help your children save for their future while you shop. Use my link in the description and get your child started investing in under 3 minutes. If you're a YouTuber or are considering starting a YouTube channel and you like my editing style, click the link in the description to get a free trial of my software. Thanks again for all the support in the comment section. And a special thanks to Renaissance Man, who is our new comment section champion for this week. Make sure you check out his channel as he helps you on creating confidence and focus on regaining your masculinity. Link in the description. Join the discussion for a chance to have your comment featured. I read and reply to all the comments I get. Check out these videos on your screen on how to improve your finances. If you like this video, hit the like button. It helps out a lot. Be sure to subscribe and share the video with your friends. Check the links in the description for offer information. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.